Hey everyone, welcome back. Before I get started, I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and hope you're able to enjoy the day with your family. I also do appreciate you taking time on Christmas to watch one of my videos. Now today's video is going to cover a few different topics, but the first one is the most important. It highlights the risk of flying, even if your destination or layover is not in the United States. Because in my opinion, if we're traveling anywhere near the Canada-US border, or flying over the United States to get to a place like Mexico or Cuba or anywhere else, there's still a small risk that we need to be aware of, and this video shows the example of that risk. I also have two videos to show, one out of Victoria and the other is out of Montana. They show the stark contrast between the tourism activity. I like showing these back to back because it clearly shows how the US is feeling the pain while Canada is starting to reap the benefits. So we'll get into that as well in today's video. Today's backdrop comes from Ormond, who sent in this photo from Lacombe, Alberta. I hope I said that right. I thought it was fitting to use this on Christmas morning, especially since many of you across Canada are waking up to a white Christmas. So thank you, Omen, for sending this over. Also, stick around to the end. I have a few photos of Kuala Lumpur, this time taken in the evening. I'm still trying to get used to hearing Christmas music while wearing shorts and a t-shirt. It just doesn't feel right to me. Alright, let's get started.
I'm really happy that they took the precautions and didn't decide to just land even though the plane was having problems.
Over 100 travelers coming from Toronto to Winnipeg ended up in the United States as a Porter Airlines flight diverted to Minneapolis last night.
It was a hard travel day for some trying to head to Winnipeg yesterday.
We understand that the reason the plane couldn't land here was because one of the sensors on the wings wasn't working properly, so they didn't know whether it was freezing, so they couldn't land.
This is a scenario that's rare, but it also proves that it can happen, and it does happen. A regular domestic flight from Toronto to Winnipeg ran into technical issues, and Minneapolis ended up being the closest airport available. This could happen anywhere at any time. If you're traveling anywhere south of the US, your flight is almost guaranteed to pass over the United States. But this was a domestic flight, and you would think traveling within Canada means you wouldn't have to deal with the US airport at all. And yet, here we are. If you look at the map, where they started experiencing technical issues, there may not have been a Canadian airport close enough to safely land. So Minneapolis was the only option.
Even after having a rough 24 hours, most travelers were relieved and thankful to land in Winnipeg.
Just happy that we've made it safely, and the pilot was fantastic, and Porter Airline, I can't recommend them enough. They were great.
We got landed safely where we needed to land, and we all slept for the most part, and we got safely on the plane again today, so we're really happy to be home back in Canada.
There were some staff who were fantastic and they did the best they could, but yeah, it was very trying.
Several travelers had similar takeaways after this experience. Most didn't carry their passports because they were traveling domestic.
I think a lot of us who travel domestic within Canada are used to just using our driver's license. In fact, when I used to travel for work to Toronto, I just used my driver's license and that was it. But this is 2025, the year of way too many WTF moments. I think now, we have to expect the unexpected. And thankfully for these passengers, it doesn't seem like they ran into any issues at all after making an emergency landing in Minneapolis. But that doesn't mean issues won't happen every time.
We were in the States, didn't have passports, we didn't know what we were gonna do. We thought there was some hope because we had pictures, and then they were like, nope. And they were like, oh, like these are the cots you're gonna be sleeping on the floor of the airport. And then finally this one guy came and he was like, okay, we're gonna let you go. All the people with photos of their passports, he let us go. Thank the Lord.
And at the end of it all, travelers were able to land safely in Winnipeg, and the main message is loud and clear here.
So I would recommend everybody travel with your passport, whether you're just traveling in Canada or anywhere else. You never know what's going to happen to you.
That is great advice. We're in different times now, and you never really know if a domestic flight might end up being rerouted to a US airport. There's a lot of domestic travel that flies close or even over the United States. I put together a few routes just to give everyone a visual. Most of the flights that pass through the US airspace tend to depart from Toronto or Halifax. But even if your flight stays within Canada the entire time, if there's an issue and the closest airport happens to be south of the border, that's where the emergency landing is going to be. Now, I don't want this segment to sound like a scare tactic or make anyone feel like we can't travel anymore. These situations are rare, and realistically, 99% of flights will reach their destinations without any problems. What I do want to say though, if you're flying near the border or over the US, you should be prepared just in case like a situation like this happens on your flight. If you're traveling south of the US, you already have your passport anyways. But for domestic, I strongly recommend everyone bring your passport with you, even if it's a flight from like Vancouver to Toronto. Now moving on to the next report. This one comes out of Victoria, BC, and it talks about how successful the 2025 tourism season has been so far. I know we all hate seeing this guy or even hearing him, but it does help to explain why Victoria has been so successful this year.
A lot of people in Canada are liking becoming our beautiful, cherished 51st state.
Those are the infamous words that ticked Canadians off and led to what's being called Victoria's best tourism season ever.
In terms of top-line revenue and hotel metrics, this is by far a record year.
Canadians spent their tourism dollars in their own country, skipping travel to the United States.
They're not letting up. American destinations are seeing sustained reductions of Canadians traveling southbound of 30 to 35%.
A win for island tourism operators and a loss for international ferry service.
After April, we noticed that we were down around 30 to 35% from Canadian originating travel, and that was the elbows up dilemma that we had to face.
Now, even though tourism has gone up for activities and businesses within Canada, businesses that rely on the cross-border traffic are unfortunately suffering. Another example would be duty-free shops all across Canada. Many of them have had to actually close. So unfortunately, not all Canadian businesses are going to thrive from this boom in domestic tourism.
Staff at the Clipper pivoted by focusing on sports tourism.
Let's go Blue Jays!
One such example, a special game day sailing when the Toronto Blue Jays played the Seattle Mariners in the American League Championship Series.
Sports brings people together, just as the Clippers brought people together for the last 40 years.
It's a strategy they're sticking with for the coming year. Across the border, there are plans to put on another welcome party like we saw last winter for people ferrying from Victoria to Port Angeles.
When all of the national level talk started back in January of 2025, we were really upset about that because the relationship between us and Victoria has never been a partisan thing.
It might not have been a partisan thing, but let's not kid ourselves. It's also a revenue thing. Now, when that guy said earlier that sports brings people together, I'm not sure I totally agree with that. I'm a diehard Canucks fan, and I'm glad my team isn't in last place anymore, at least it's the time I'm recording this video. I used to fly to Los Angeles to watch my team, and even to Las Vegas. But that changed this year. And no matter how much I love my team, it isn't more important to me than my country. So in my opinion, those who are still traveling to watch their sports teams are prioritizing sports over their country. And that's not me, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. Let me know in the comments if you agree with me. And if you do agree, and you're not subscribed, help my channel out by hitting that subscribe button below.
Representative for downtown Port Angeles says in order to avoid a total collapse in tourism, the city shifted its advertising focus to domestic travelers.
Because they finally realized we don't give a shit about their promos and discount codes.
Our tour operators were anticipating this was going to be an awful year.
But it wasn't. He says American tourists showed up and some local shops had their best years yet.
We're also sort of reading the tea leaves to decipher what it is that we did right, because we want to replicate it next year. But we miss our international tourists.
Travelers who may not be back to the States anytime soon. It's anticipated they'll be keeping it local, likely leading to another banner year for tourism on Vancouver Island in 2026.
At the rate we're going now, Canada's 2026 tourism season will probably be even better than 2025. I wouldn't be surprised if the cities and tourist attractions across the country continue to see increases. I mean, all we really need is for the orange guy to put that social media policy in place and make it live. And that alone will likely deter even more tourists globally from going to the US. Now this next report is on the opposite end of the spectrum. Montana, who has been in the news a lot lately, is showing just how much they're struggling when it comes to tourism.
So these are prints from an artist in Billings, Montana.
At this gift shop in Cutbank, Montana, you'll find products made by local artisans. Popular gifts for Canadian shoppers, but there's fewer people crossing the border to buy them.
They feel insulted and they feel unwelcome.
She says comments from the U.S. president haven't helped, along with stories about the difficulties some Canadians have experienced at the border, from delays to being detained.
Well, I think there's definitely a chill, and people, are reluctant to cross the border, especially if they're worried about getting back, which some of our friends are. I think it's really sad because we have wonderful friends in Canada, and it's always, that the border just seemed like more of a suggestion than a hard line. And now it seems like a hard line.
I have to agree with her. For decades, it was so easy for Canadians to head south that it almost felt like a formality. But now, that so-called largest undefended border is one that millions of Canadians simply do not want to cross anymore. That shop owner, though, my gut tells me that she kind of gets it. I think she understands. That's just my first impression, but based off what she's saying and how she's saying it, I do feel bad for her and her business. But at the same time, Canadians need to do what we believe is right and stick to our values.
It's been a rough year for Montana tourism. Through the summer months alone, the number of Canadian visitors dropped by 132,000.
We don't take you for granted, and we definitely miss you.
At this Western wear shop in Kalispell, the owner has built a special bond with Canadians. Calgary Stampede posters hang on the walls inside the store, something he says Canadians love to see, but he's not seeing many of them anymore.
I'm sure there's some rhetoric that, our president has said that probably hasn't helped, but what I talk to Canadians is mainly the dollar. The exchange rate they're having a harder time justifying coming down, paying for lodging, food, and then purchases.
Okay, this shop owner doesn't get it. And you just get that vibe about who he voted for. You know what I mean, right? You can just kind of feel it. I don't think I even need to explain why it isn't the exchange rate. The exchange rate has been basically the same as it was last year, and yet Canadians were still going. To me, this is just another excuse. It feels like a way to deflect from the real root cause, which is his president. You can even hear it in the way he talks about it. Like, yeah, the rhetoric, but then he pivots right back to blaming the exchange rate. Let me know in the comments if you agree with my take on this guy.
One strategy to lure Canadians back to the city of 30,000, offer discounts.
We know and fully respect and understand that not everybody is comfortable visiting the United States right now. When they are ready to come, we just want them to know that Kalispell's welcome mat is always out, and we're a safe and welcoming community.
Peary says the discounts are helping a bit. He says the key will be more parity between the Canadian and American dollars.
Oh, seriously, screw off with the parity and exchange rate excuse. I know it's Christmas and I've refrained from dropping the F-bomb. But this guy's a classic example of U.S. citizens assuming they know what's best for Canadians or what we're thinking.
So what days are you posting about that one?
Back in Cutbank, Lisa Klein says something else needs to change before Canadians will consider coming back.
I think we're in a tremendous period of political divisiveness, and I think that the polarity of the political climate in the United States needs to be remediated.
Until that happens, her message to Canadians is that they're more than welcome to come down for a visit.
You see what I mean about the differences between the two business owners? One of them gets it and is publicly stating that their government is the issue and that it has to be resolved before Canadians come back. The other owner says our dollar needs to be closer to their dollar before we come back. Like, what the hell? I saw a comment in one of my videos where someone said they never want to see a business fail. Honestly, I don't want to see this woman's business fail either. What's happening to her business is unfortunate and is caused by her government. But the exchange rate guy with his US exceptionalism? I'm sorry, but if his doors close, I really could care less. I know the haters in my comments are just going to say you're just as divisive as MAGA, or that you're just spewing hate. But it's not hate. It's called defending my country and taking a stance against US exceptionalism. Quite frankly, I'm tired of it. And I know a lot of you listening are tired of it as well. So with these last two reports, one out of Victoria and this one out of Montana, I hope it clearly shows the drastic contrast between what's happening north of the border and the polar opposite south of us. My gut tells me that 2026 is only going to get better for Canada and quite frankly for the rest of the world when it comes to tourism, and it's going to get a lot worse for the United States. Now to close off this video, I wanted to show everyone what the Christmas season looks like here in Kuala Lumpur. I went back to the KLCC park area, and this past weekend there was actually a comic book and anime festival going on. There were thousands of people around. I had no idea and I was just wondering why I was so busy. But despite having multiple religions here, they do still celebrate Christmas, and I have to say they really go all out when it comes to the Christmas decorations. One thing that I'm still not used to is hearing jingle bells while wearing shorts and a t-shirt. And even though I'm thousands of kilometers away from home, I do kind of miss the cold, crisp air of a winter morning. So with that said, if you're still watching this video on Christmas Day and you've made it this far, I want to thank you for sticking around to the end. And I hope you and your family have a very Merry Christmas. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.